Training for the Berlin Marathon starts now. Cheers, y'all. How's it going? Okay, so not literally right now, but we are just under 23 weeks away from the Berlin Marathon, which I know seems like a long time, but I also know it will be here before I know it. So without too many races on the calendar, I know it's time to start just organizing my thoughts, organizing my formal training plan for the Berlin Marathon. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today, is sort of my strategy, my training plan, the sort of structural foundation of the training plan going into the Berlin Marathon, a little bit about my pacing strategy as well. If you want to follow along with the journey, it should be an exciting one. This will be the first official video in the Berlin 2023 playlist that I'll have on my YouTube channel, cataloging all of my training leading up until that race. But overall goal for the Berlin Marathon, I think I've hinted at it, I may have even mentioned it, but I'm not gonna hone in on too specific of a time just yet, because I do wanna gauge where I'm at through training before I finalize that goal. But my last marathon, for those of you that didn't follow along, was 3:38, or I guess 3:37, I think. 3:37, 3:38, somewhere around there. But I'm hopeful with the flat course of Berlin, with hopefully good weather in Berlin, that I can knock a significant chunk off that. So my A goal right now is to run sub 3:30. That's the dream, that's the hope. I ran that last race on a relatively hilly course, so I'm hoping with the right training on a flat course, I can crush that. We will see. But I am hoping to take my training a little bit more seriously, or just be a little bit more structured, and not just structured in the training, but in the paces throughout training as well. So not just having a structured training plan, but having specific structured workouts, hitting target paces, building up to training, again, to test my fitness. And that's what I'm talking about where I'm saying I want to gauge how I'm feeling throughout training before honing in on a final goal. I think that by using kind of specific paced workouts, I will have a much clearer, more accurate idea of my fitness by the time I'm ready to toe the line in Berlin. And to help me get there, I picked up a book that I've been looking at for quite some time. Finally decided to go ahead and purchase it, the Daniels Running Formula. Anyone familiar with running, particularly distance running, has probably heard about this before, but if not, I would say this is one of the main, if not, I won't say the main, because I know there are a couple competing like main theories or training methodologies, but this is one of the big ones, the Daniels formulas for running. And there are a variety of different training plans in here, training modalities, depending on what your goal is, how much flexibility you want, etc. So the specific one that I am looking at is called the 2Q plan, 2 quality workouts per week. And that's all that's prescribed throughout the training plan, is it just tells you what those 2 workouts will be week to week, and you have to make sure that you get in those 2 workouts, usually relatively evenly spaced apart. So looking at like a Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday run, something like that. So again, that you have some space in between, but those are your workouts, a lot of distance and a lot of targeted speed works, targeted paces during those quality workouts. And then other than that, you are just filling out the rest of your week with easy runs to hit whatever your weekly mileage goals are. Now, I mentioned there's a lot of variation in the training plan. So the 2Q program, for instance, they have a bunch based on sort of what your time goal is in the marathon, as well as what your weekly distance goal is. So if you can think of that matrix, there are a ton of customizable options in terms of building this plan based on your specific needs. So I'm looking, the lowest it starts at is up to about 40 miles per week. So that's probably the plan that I'm gonna be sticking with. And it starts with a bang. The 2 quality workouts for that first week are an 11-mile run and a 12-mile run. And I'll just, again, read through those workouts to give you an idea of what you're looking at. So for that first 11-mile run, it's 3 easy miles followed by 4 miles at goal marathon paced, followed by a tempo mile, followed by another mile at marathon pace, finish up with 2 easy miles. That is a consistent workout with no rest intervals in between. The second quality workout is 5 easy miles, followed by 2 tempo miles, followed by 2 minutes of rest, 1 easy mile, and then 2 times repeat of 1 tempo mile with 1 minute rest in between. You do that twice, and then 2 more easy miles. I really like the variation throughout the runs. I've done a lot of training, even during long runs, usually more at like a steady state, but sometimes at a tempo pace where you're mixing up running a variety of paces throughout the long run. I think that helps break up the long run a lot, makes it more interesting, helps make the workout seem a lot more fun, I think. But also, I feel like getting some speed in during those long runs is hopefully really gonna help pay off a lot in the end for that goal marathon, for that Berlin Marathon time. It's something I haven't done a ton of recently in long run training. And so like I said, I just feel like getting in not only those high volume runs, but also getting in some intensity during those runs is going to pay off incredibly well once it comes down to race day. So that's a quick intro of sort of the structure of the plan. Again, there are a bunch of tables in here. That's just the start, going through of all of the workouts and everything building up to the marathon. I'm working on structuring that into my long-term training plan, but that's one of the main pros of this particular program. Why I chose it is because of the schedule flexibility. Yes, you have those 2 key workouts every week, but the rest of it is up to you to schedule. And that's something I certainly need just with my work schedule, trying to figure out when to squeeze workouts in. I'm hopeful, since I do have the luxury of having some remote days during the week, that I can schedule that sort of midweek quality workout on a remote day, because trying to get in 11 or 12 miles before having to commute an hour and a half into work seems impossible to me. And so I'm hopeful that the flexibility of this training plan will help make it a little bit easier for me to stick to throughout this training process. In terms of cons, I wouldn't even necessarily call them cons. I would say the only things I'm a bit apprehensive about, or a bit nervous about is probably a better word, is obviously I've not done a lot of speed training, or really any speed training, since really my last marathon training block, which ended last April. So it's been about a year since I've done any kind of real speed work. So I'm a little bit nervous or apprehensive, I would say, to the volume. This is going to be a high volume training plan, certainly a lot of miles that I'm going to be working on logging over the next several months. So we have the volume, and then also the intensity, not having logged much speed work at all over the last several months. I think hopefully I'll have a relatively strong base coming off of training for that 100 miler, but I also know my training leading up to that race was a little sporadic. So some things to certainly be nervous about, but I do enjoy the flexibility of this training plan, and I do think I can tweak some of those workouts to ease my way into this plan the way that I want to, while still gaining the overall benefits from that training program. So that's sort of what I'm looking at right now. Very, very excited to dive even more into this book. Again, there is so much information in here, different races, different distances, different workouts, training methodologies, fitness statistics, facts, etc. I mean, there's a lot to learn from here. So I've got a long way to go. I have just barely scratched the surface, but very excited to have this in my corner for this year's training. But right now, just focused on the early, not so early stages of base building, using these next 4.5, 5 weeks to really start accumulating some consistent mileage throughout the weeks, building in more frequent runs throughout the weeks, and getting closer to like a 25, 30 mile week. That's where I want to sort of be my starting point, and honestly stay somewhat consistently in that zone, slowly building to that 40 mile week mark as the training program success, or as the level of training program suggests that I chose. So building up to that 40 mile week, that's where I tend to be very effective, tend to not get overly fatigued, and I'm hoping that I can adapt very well to that distance. The other big thing that I'm working on now is building in consistent strength training, both in dedicated gym sessions focused on upper body, lower body, and core, building in some just dedicated strength work throughout my weekly training sessions, but also working in some light strength work as a cool down session or cool down workout after my runs. So that's something that I've been doing the last couple of weeks, which has been feeling really good. It's nice to be doing some dedicated strength work again, but just doing rotating a few basic strength and mobility exercises that I can do very quickly after all of my workouts, whether those be like step ups onto a bench, box jumps, squats. I don't remember if they're called like ice skates or what, where you kind of jump side to side, but basically stuff that's working out some of those key muscle groups as well as some of those stabilizer muscles. It's something, again, quick and easy that I can do after my workouts that I'm hoping will pay off a ton and be a very valuable investment into injury prevention through this training block. Because again, it's gonna be high volume, there's gonna be high intensity workouts as well. So I wanna make sure I'm paying just as much attention to recovery and injury prevention as I am to the running itself. So there you have it, that's where we're at now. There is certainly a lot of excitement. Even just as I've started to build out some of these base building workouts, I've been doing some steady state runs. Again, getting in not what I would consider speed work, but pushing outside my comfort zone. My legs, especially like hamstrings, quads, have a little bit of the familiar soreness of a good workout, especially after adding in some of those strength exercises after all of those runs. I'm just feeling really good. My legs have felt strong on the run. It's felt good to start building mileage again. And so again, early stages, but the exciting stages. And I'm having fun building out this long-term plan, knowing that I'm gonna have to tear it down, revise it, adapt it, adjust it as things come up, but setting in motion these long-term plans and knowing and being excited to see what comes out of it in September when I'm ready to toe the line in Berlin. So I hope you are excited. If you want to tune in and follow along throughout this training process, I hope to follow it a lot more closely with kind of live updates on workouts in the form of short videos now that those are available on YouTube, training updates, weekly training updates, especially once training officially begins, once we're in the official kind of marathon training block, to let you know how things are going, what my paces are looking like, just to give you an inside view of what training for this race is going to look like. Because I think I've heard from folks that information can be very valuable when you're training for your own races, being able to see what other folks have done, what works for me, knowing that, hey, it might not work for you or for everyone, but hopefully it helps you kind of formulate your own ideas, formulate your own goals that you might be shooting towards. So if you want to follow along, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, and you can click that bell if you want to get a notification every time I post a new video. I mentioned this will be the first official video in the Berlin Marathon training playlist. That'll be pinned on my profile as well. If you're ever curious if new videos are up, you can just go check there. But thank you as always for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. If you are training for a big fall goal race, I hope you'll put that down in the comments below so that we can cheer you on as well. And until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.